It must have been around 1925 when the first performance of El Retablo de Maese Pedro took place in Valencia. And that concert was a very special event in my life. I still will always remember, the intense emotion I felt on hearing that music, so new, so original, and so much part of our history, which would open a new and broad pathway forward for Spanish music. The performance was given by the Orquesta Bética, that attractive ensemble founded by Falla, and which was conducted by the still very young Ernesto Alfter. Falla spent some days in Valencia on account of this event, but nevertheless I didn't meet Don Manuel on this occasion. I was held back by a well-justified timidity, something I've so often regretted, since without it I would perhaps have gone to Granada to work with him. I met him 3 years later, when I was far removed from all that. It was, in fact, in 1928. We were together one morning in Paul Ducas's class, when, unexpectedly, the door opened and the director of the École Normale came in, accompanied by another gentleman. Ducas quickly got up and greeted the visitor with a warmth that was rather unusual for him. It was Manuel de Falla. After speaking animatedly to him, he called me over and introduced me. I felt a boundless enthusiasm for Don Manuel's music, and I was very excited. Some days later, Paul Ducas said to me, "Falla wants to see you. He's something to tell you which will delight you." Intrigued and nervous, I went to see him. He lived in a modest hotel near the Opera Comique, beside the great boulevard, since rehearsals were beginning for La Vita Breve, El Amor Brujo, and El Retablo de Maese Pedro. With great modesty, his characteristic trait, he told me that they were going to award him the Légion d'honneur, and as a result there would be a concert of Spanish music. Herriot, the then Minister of Education, had proposed a concert of Falla's works to him, but he had refused, preferring a concert of contemporary Spanish music in which, as well as himself, the pianist Ricardo Viñes would participate. And it was his wish that I should also take part, performing some of my works. My surprise and shock was such that I was hardly able to reply, but I accepted nevertheless. I remember that the homage took place in the Rothschild Palace, and in the programme, as well as the harpsichord concerto which Falla himself played, there were works by Turina and Ernesto Alfter. I'd prepared my works thoroughly, but a dreadful fear took hold of me, and I played extremely badly. But everyone applauded a great deal. Don Manuel embraced me and said that he had liked my Zarabanda Lejana very much and asked me to send it to him as soon as it was published. Many years later, in his concerts in Argentina, he conducted it on several occasions. The whole of Paris had been at the concert. The outstanding figures of French music were there, and I'll never forget the party that followed the celebration. It was like something out of 1001 Nights. Falla didn't eat anything, but as for me, my fear had given me a tremendous appetite. The maestro used to go to a little café every day beside the Opera Comique. He'd go there before rehearsals and after coming out of Mass. He ate a very small breakfast. He used to take out of his pocket a number of small bottles full of pills, which he took very deliberately. He spoke very little, with a gentle, low and quiet voice, but everything he said was interesting and personal. He once said to me, "Rodrigo, I'm going to give you a piece of advice to follow. Don't ever sell your works to editors. One never knows. Keep a proportion of them, even a small number. I will introduce you to my editor," which is what he did. Years passed, our civil war took place, but prior to that I'd applied for one of the Conde de Cartagena scholarships, which the Academia de Bellas Artes used to award. I approached Falla, who was an academician-elect, and I have a letter in which he says, "I have written to the Conde de Romanones," who was the director at the time, promising him that if the Academia awards the scholarship to you, I will give my acceptance speech at the Academia. Well, I did get the scholarship, but Falla never wrote his speech. When the Civil War was almost over, I wrote again to Don Manuel, this time asking him for a teaching post, and he replied immediately, offering me a post as lecturer in the history of music at the university, either Seville or Granada. But I didn't take up the post, as I accepted another offer from Madrid. I didn't see Don Manuel again. When he passed through Madrid in 1939 on his way to Buenos Aires, I didn't know in time. He'd already left, and this time he wasn't to return, at least in this life. But I had the consolation of being present one damp morning there in his native Cadiz when they brought his body home on a warship, to then hear the music by Vittoria, which he loved so much, and to be buried in the crypt of the cathedral, to the sounds of the ocean. That ocean which had swallowed Atlantis so many centuries before, that remote Atlantis about which he sang so magically, and which was his final, almost impossible dream.